Joining us now is Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts. He's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And, Senator, here's a question I haven't asked you before. Who do you agree with, Mike Lee or Marco Rubio?
You know, actually, it's a good day for America when you can ask that kind of a question. When the Republican Party is actually having a debate over a Trump policy. So, you know, I attended the same briefing that Senator Lee did. A frustrating session where information was grudgingly being dispensed by the cabinet officials of Donald Trump. And it was almost a tag team where each one of the senators who was asking a question was trying to elicit another small morsel of information from them. And then what they announced after 75 minutes, like it was a game show, time's up. We're sorry, we don't have any more time for you to continue to try to get us to give you the specifics of what the imminent threat was to the country, what the targets were, how many days or weeks we really thought would elapse before it would happen. And so at the end of that session, you could just feel the palpable unhappiness of many of the senators who were willing to sit there for hours in addition to get the answers to the key questions that the American people want to know, because ultimately we could be talking about a commitment of American young men and women to a conflict with Iran, and the precipitating cause would be the assassination of Soleimani, and they just stood up all at once and just walked out of the room without allowing us to ask follow-on questions.
Well, the president added to the story today. He added an imminent threat. Let's listen to what he said today about this possibility of their intent to burn down the embassy.
We caught a total monster, and we took him out, and that should have happened a long time ago. We did it because they were looking to blow up our embassy. We also did it for other reasons that were very obvious.
Did they say anything to you yesterday about blowing up the embassy?
No, we did not hear about blowing up the embassy yesterday in that briefing, and I sat through it from beginning to end. And so if that was the threat, if it was imminent, if it was going to happen within a couple of days, they had every opportunity for 75 minutes to let us know that. And that would have cast all of this in a different light, because we had so many diplomatic and military personnel who would have been in danger. But we didn't hear that. And ultimately, you know, sometimes you just think that Donald Trump is like making it up as he goes along in order to provide answers because he can understand the unease of the American people, that in fact we might have just crossed a tripwire that could have potential long-term catastrophic consequences for our national security.
I just want to turn to the trial, the impeachment trial that's coming up. You know Senator Romney better than most of the other senators. He was your governor of Massachusetts. You were in the congressional delegation while he was governor. You worked with him. He obviously has said he's willing to vote for John Bolton to be called as a witness. He said that he'd like to hear from witnesses, plural. Is he the only one? Do you think there will be enough Republican votes in the Senate to call John Bolton at least as a witness?
Well, you know, it's hard for me to get inside the internal workings of the cerebral mechanisms of Republican senators. So I'm very glad that Senator Romney is now, you know, willing to, you know, move forward on Bolton testifying. Obviously, we're going to need 4 of the senators on the Republican side to join with the 47 Democrats, or those who caucus with the Democrats in the Senate. We would have no way of knowing what would happen a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whenever the trial begins on the Senate floor. My hope would be that at a minimum we could find 4 Republican United States senators who would say that due process would be well served if the 4 witnesses, that is Mick Mulvaney, John Bolton, the OMB officials who were talked to about withholding the $380 million to the Ukraine government, were allowed to testify. and that would be something that would add on to the information that the House of Representatives sent over, and it would be those who are in most direct contact with Donald Trump who could give us the most accurate representation of what he was saying and thinking at that time. So my hope is that 4 would step forward to give us the votes to get the 51. And then if ultimately, when we vote on removal of the president, they decide not to do so, it will have at least happened after all the evidence was out on the table. All of the witnesses were heard. And so I have my fingers crossed, but I've been disappointed over the last 3 years by the Republican side in many, many instances with regard to bucking Donald Trump.
Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.